Tonight, the Real Sim Racing Asphalt Assault Series returns, and it is live for all 10 weeks on LSRTV. Tonight, we're going to get things kicked off from none other than the Talladega Super Speedway for 88 laps and 235 miles in the Alabama sun. Welcoming you into the LSRTV broadcast booth. My name, Evan Pasoko. Harrison Weidlett's going to be joining me for all 10 weeks, and that is going to be 10 weeks with no off weeks. So we're racing all the way through for this championship. First and foremost, Harrison, welcome up to the booth. This is going to be a good one out here with these B cars at Talladega.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Fixed setup, Talladega drafting. You see out here the cars qualifying right now on the track, and a lot of two-car tandem going on. People have to be watching those gauges, make sure they don't overheat, and you can bet that we'll see a whole lot of three-wide racing tonight.
And the inaugural season of the Asphalt Assault TV Class B Series was a huge success last year with over 70 drivers competing, and that was a 36-race season. It came down to the final race at Homestead. We will have Homestead as our championship race this year as well, where Stefan Marinak beat out Bobby Terrell by 1 point to take home the championship, and Marinak was able to walk away with the hardware, including a Derek Spear Designs button box, a Phonetic wheel stand, and those were presented by InsideSimRacing. Both of those brands back on board this year, Derek Spear Designs and InsideSimRacing TV on board for the Tuesday night series here. However, Bobby Terrell is going to get a shot at redemption here. Stefan Marinak not in the field for tonight's race, so Terrell could be called a favorite per se. It was a two-car battle last year to determine the championship points. Third on back was over 130 out of it, but 10 races is a different animal from 36. We mentioned there's no drop weeks, Harrison. You really can't have a bad week because it'll drop you significantly lower in the standings, and there's not enough races to kind of balance out there. You don't want to use up your mulligans too quick.
Yeah, absolutely, and throwing Talladega first for all these drivers to tackle really puts the pressure on. As you said, a 10-race season, very much like the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup guys. And as you said, you don't want to use a mulligan too quickly. It seems like you can get away with one, but you don't want to even come to that. If you can have every race just get through there with a clean race car, then you could focus on getting the best finish that you can.
You said it is going to be a fixed setup series, so there's not going to be any team with a little bit of advantage over somebody else. Everybody here, they got the same tape on the front of that race car. They all have the same aero package. It is an even playing field. It's going to be who can navigate what you touched on there, the two-car tandem, who can navigate that as well as the pack racing. You're going to have to find an equal balance of both of those if you're going to be successful. Just a couple seconds left. It has been a 15-minute open qualifier. You mentioned 10 races similar to the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series to chase, and the schedule loosely follows that. We'll touch on that later on in tonight's broadcast. But again, 10 weeks nonstop on LSRTV, same place, same time, week in and week out. Talladega to kick things off. Now, Talladega, a wild card race. You exit the first race of a season in a wild card race. It could have some conflicting stories in the points exiting tonight. What kind of approach would you take, Harrison? Obviously, entering this race, it's not mid-season that you have Talladega. The first race, you don't want to get started off behind the rest of the field, but it's about gambling, and it's that risk versus reward scenario.
Yeah, it's definitely tough, and this is a situation where you can't really afford to back off too much because, you know, how many times have we seen races at Daytona or Talladega go absolutely cautionless? And 88 laps, you know, the drivers are going to probably have patience on their mind, so it's going to come down to hitting your marks on those green flag pit stops, staying with the draft. I think we'll see early on a lot more pack racing than you'd even think, just as far as drivers trying to keep those temperatures. So you want to be up front, but I think we're going to see some guys who take that conservative strategy and come on strong at the end.
3 different cars eligible to be out on track. Obviously, the Ford Mustang B-Class car, the new Camaro, as well as the old Chevrolet Impala. going to be out there on the racetrack, and the field is set. We're on the grid, and we're going to run you down through the starting lineup for tonight's Talladega 88-lap affair to get this thing kicked off. And on the pole is going to be Eric Arnold. He was fastest in practice. He'll go fastest in qualifying as well. The fastest time all night long at 48.975 puts him on pole. He did that lap with Ronnie Potts, the 19 machine. Potts starts outside in second.
Starting third is the number 2 of Rhett McBride, just 2 thousandths off the pole, and starting fourth will be the 85 Adam Benefiel.
Steve Ritter, the number 16 Ford, was going to start in position number 5. That's the inside of the third row. Alongside him, Cody Gibson, the number 8 Chevrolet, starts in 6th.
Dan Murray in the number 5 will be starting 7th. Alongside of him, the 51 of Doug Manning.
We got teammates side by side on row number 5. Scott Simley, the number 4 Mustang, starts in 9th, and Brian Harvey, the number 67 Chevrolet, in 10th position. Those guys get around out the top 10.
Starting 11th will be the number 21 of Matt Lacrosse. Outside of him, one of the Impalas in the race, the number 48 of Kevin Linden.
The Skull Bandit starting in the unlucky number 13 starting position. That's Jamie Moore, the 82, takes up that position. Alongside him, Norman Sidlick, the 25, will take up position number 14 in that retro Pepsi Chevrolet.
Mark Bratcher will be looking to bring his loop car to victory lane. He'll be starting 15th. Outside of him, the number 07 of Mitch Rollo.
Darianne Mills, the number 77 machine, will roll off in position number 17. That's going to be a Ford alongside her. Kevin Gosser, the number 29, rolls off in 18th.
Starting 19th will be Corbin Himstreet. Alongside of him, guy to look out for, the number 58, Justin Wilson.
Take a look back at row number 11. It is the 11 car on the inside of that. 21st starting position belongs to Joe Hassert. Alongside him, the car that is looking for redemption, a car that was strong all last season that came up just 1 point short, 1 position all season long, kept Bobby Terrell out of championship victory lane in Homestead Miami Speedway. He'll shoot for that this season, however he's going to have to start back in 22nd on the opener.
Yeah, and starting 23rd will be Keith Brooks Jr., the number 81. Rounding out the field will be the 38 of Kyle Gilbert.
24 cars get set to take the green flag. Again, Eric Arnold will be the control car. The control car doesn't really have as much power at a super speedway as you would at a 1.5, typically, and per RSR rules. At any other racetrack but Talladega, from when the pace car hits pit lane to the sim throwing the green flag, that car up at a number 1 position can go when he or she desires. Now, not really much of an advantage to doing that at Talladega because the field will eat you alive at a corner number 2 once they catch you. So that 6 machine of Eric Arnold will most likely be going on green. He's on the inside, and again, Ronnie Potts on the outside. The number 19 machine is in second. They make up the front row, and we get set to go green as the pace car dives down to the safety of pit road. Again, that start-finish line is past the tri-oval as the field starts to cycle through it now, and we get set for 88 laps. The 6 machine on the gas already. Green flag flies, and the Asphalt Assault Racing Series back underway. Green flag in the air.
Yeah, much like you, I expected him to go on the green, but as you see him lifting a little bit, backing up to these guys behind him, he doesn't want to get too far out, as most of these guys in the field looking for people to work with. Looks like Rhett McBride in the number 2 pulling up to the back bumper of the number 6 of Arnold, while the 19 of Potts gets hung out to dry. The 85 jumps back to the inside.
Yeah, Adam Benefiel dives down to the inside line. He'll be the 3rd car down the bottom. Through the back straightaway now into 3 and 4. That leaves, again, that 19 of Ronnie Potts out to dry. The 2 machine of Rhett McBride steps out to the high side. The 85 of Benefiel goes with him. Do they attempt to make a charge on the outside lane? They get hooked up, and they will do so. The outside is going to be the passing lane tonight. If you're down on the bottom, you have to be content to ride in. You get up top and push, that's where you're going to have to make passes, and new leader at the stripe. The 2 of Rhett McBride to the number 1 spot. The 85 of Benefiel through with him. The 16 machine of Steve Ritter sneaks into 3rd at a 19 machine, trying to get another move going. That was Ronnie Potts, and the 16 dived down in line, and now Potts stuck up high once again.
Yeah, as you see, no help for the number 6 of Eric Arnold. He went back to 4th in a hurry, was not able to lead a lap despite being the pole sitter, although that's a frequent occurrence here at Talladega. But this is one of those situations where you get all alone out front, you're going to be headed backwards. But as you see, the 16 of Steve Ritter, you can run alone and kind of hang with that draft, as actually our top 2 are not tandeming right now. There's some air between their bumpers. That 85 Benefield trying to keep those temperatures low.
Yes, 78 degrees Fahrenheit is the temperature entering tonight's race. We have winds to the north at 2 miles an hour and relative humidity at 55%. So it's a hot one out there, nothing outrageous, but you don't want to be pushing if it's not going to give you any sort of advantage. You want to keep these engines as cool as possible. 88 laps is a lot of laps around the Talladega Superspeedway at 2.66 miles in length per lap. And again, I said the outside where you're going to pass. If you're on the bottom, you see the bottom not pushing all the way. The 85 got to the bumper, the 2 of Rhett McBride there for a moment, and back off just a little bit. The inside is where you're riding. So polar opposites of a freeway. The fast lane is going to be on the right-hand side here under these long green flag runs. If you're going to make a pass, you got to go outside. You see the 19, the first car on the outside lane. That's Ronnie Potts after starting second. Has help right now. That is the 4 of Scott Simley. Simley trailing that number 19 Ford up in front of him. So 2 Fords working together. The 21 also on the outside, Matt Lacrosse. And that outside lane, the nose is up to about 3rd place in line in comparison to the 16 of Steve Ritter. But now they get hooked up at a corner number 2, and they're going to make a run down the back.
Yeah, Ronnie Potts, a nice push of momentum from that 4 of Simley. The question is, can he get to the lead? Doesn't look like it right now, losing a little bit of momentum. I expected it to be a little bit more tandem drafting early on. I expected it to be kind of a split with a lot of cars taking it easy, but it looks like most of these drivers here realize just how far to go in this race and are being kind on their race cars. But as you can see, more cars on the bottom than at the top. And as you alluded to before, that creates some accordion situations with people lifting a lot more to stay off of each other, and that's what really opens up that top side. But when you don't have enough help, it just stalls out in these corners the longer way around.
The top 16 cars are in this lead group, and they're within 9/10 of a second. Joe Hassert and the number 11 working with the 77 of Sherry Ann Mills, 17th and 18th, the first cars that are not in that lead draft. But everybody is in relative distance to each other. 3.4 seconds separate first through 23rd. One car severely off pace is Kyle Gilbert. The 38 machine rides around 24th. Over 11 seconds back, has lost that draft after starting at the back of the field. Didn't get up and go in time. And if we see a decent length green flag run here, he'll be looking at a lap down.
Oh yeah, he's in a very vulnerable spot. You know, he's just going to be hoping for a caution before it gets too late. The one positive out of this is how many times do you see someone just not be able to keep up with the draft or intentionally back off of it, and then they're in a really safe position should there be a huge wreck. There's a few guys playing it easy up there, and as far as position 22 all the way up through about 16th. And then, as you said, still a lot of guys running together, but they're giving each other a lot of room. But super speedway racing, you have to be so precise, so close, and mistakes can happen, especially when you get comfortable.
Well, once the bumpers of the 77 and the 11 got hooked up, Sherry Ann Mills and Joe Hassard, they pushed right back up, and now we're in line with the tail end of our lead draft. The outside lane has grown to 5 cars. 2 more step out to the high side towards the back of the pack, but that charge is still being led by the 19 of Ronnie Potts. Ronnie Potts trying to get help. It's the 4 machine still on his bumper, and that is Scott Simley. You see they get that run down the back straightaway because they're hooked up. Guys on the bottom are not. Once they get into the corner, if you're on the outside, you're almost going up the hill. You lose a little bit of momentum. If you're on the bottom, it's more like diving it down into the corner. So the inside has the advantage on entry. The outside has the advantage on exit because you're coming down that hill. Looks like the 21 of Matt Lacrosse tried to dive to the inside. However, he found the 8 of Cody Gibson there. So now we start to group back up, and the outside lane starts to grow grow in numbers. Looks like about 7 cars out there now, but the answer is now the 19 of Ronnie Potts has his nose up to 3rd at the start-finish line. The 16 of Ritter bottom out at the stripe, but they're side by side right now, 2 car lengths away from making it a nose-to-nose battle up front.
And the outside is gaining some steam here. Every time they go down the backstretch, that's their best chance. Usually that's where you will see people complete those passes. Usually the tri-oval, much like I believe there's one in the wall. It's actually the number 14 Corbin Hemstreet. Didn't see what happened, but his car's really torn up on the right side.
He's got some severe damage, and he was going down the backstretch down into 3. The 82 Skull Bandit machine pushing just in front of him. That was Jamie Moore, and Moore pushed up a little bit. Did not expect the Boomtown Sim Chevrolet to be on the high side as the replay goes up now, and just drifted up, put the 14 into the fence, and the real damage is going to come from Corbin Hemstreet trying to correct it and gets back into the fence. Again, he races here Monday nights, also live on LSRTV with the Cup side of things, the Real Sim Racing Full Throttle Cup Series. Corbin Hemstreet always a contender in that same style, the paint scheme on Monday nights as he has tonight, but this is going to drop him back to 22nd position. Kevin Gosser, the number 29 West Coast Chevrolet, has also lost the draft, so that'll make it about 3 cars here that have had some early troubles and are significantly off the pace with leaders.
Yeah, absolutely. That 14 car has got a lot of damage. I don't believe that even if he catches a caution, it's going to be a rough go for him. A lot of rear end damage, and that car just yaw out a little bit in the wrong direction, not quite tracking correctly. And that was a situation, too, where he might have just been trying to play it easy on the outside, ducking his nose out for the clean air, but he was looking outside of the 82 when the 82 made a mistake. They remained side by side towards the front. Ronnie Potts still looking to get that big run down the back to clear those guys, but it seems that they stall out right around alongside the 85 car of Benefield, who has been on the back bumper of the 2 of McBride for this entire race. Rhett McBride coming to complete lap number 10, and he has led every lap so far.
It's 8 cars on the outside lane, 9 on the inside, make up a 17-car lead draft. 2 cars pushing towards the back of that positions, 18 and 19, Keith Brooks Jr. and Justin Wilson, just about half a second off of it. You can see them riding around just behind that big lead draft. If they're able to put together a little bit of a run there, get hooked up nice and solid for about half a lap, they will be there, and they are now closing in on the 67 of Harvey, who makes up the tail end of the lead draft. So we can call it now a 19-car lead draft pack that has gone from having nearly 1 and then 3 cars on the outside lane to being pretty much double file all the way through. You mentioned it on the outside, Ronnie Potts, who was scored 3rd last time by the stripe. He's able to sometimes get up and clear that 16 of Ritter. Ritter, the 3rd car in line on the inside, but they can't get much further than past the 85 of Adam Benefield, who rides around in 2nd position, this time by the stripe. Again, Potts still scored 3rd, and they're actually going to get up to the door to the number 2 of McBride. A great push down that front straightaway by Scott Simley. Can they do anything with it? The 85 of Benefield, who has been riding around not pushing, gives a little bit of a bump to the 2 of Rhett McBride because they can see the challenge on the outside, and then the 2 car pulls clear.
The 19 of Potts, you see, the 4 of Harvey's been kind of been off his bumper, and it's interesting because, you know, if those 2 start tandeming together, probably clear the leader. However, a lot of times you kind of, you know, stray away from that because should Brian Harvey push him hard enough to clear those leaders, he might be putting his temperatures in jeopardy with a lot to go. That means your car's going to overheat quicker next time you shove someone. And so Harvey doesn't want to do that and possibly give up his partner and then lose position, possibly taking 3 wide. So exercising just better judgment right now. These guys just trying to do what they can without touching each other's bumpers with a long way to go, more than 70 laps.
And these guys, they're showing great patience. You have to be patient in the way that these B cars race. If you're a number 6 of Eric Arnold, scored 6th last time by the stripe, and actually the outside lane going to lose a lot of momentum down through 3 and 4, and the 19 slides back to about 4th place up on the outside. But if you're the 6 of Eric Arnold, if you're on the inside and we're side by side, and you're going to be side by side all the way around the racetrack with that outside lane having as many cars as it does, you can't do anything. You can't really go step out of line and make a move. There's cars there. You're content to ride. You have to constantly lift, you mentioned, and we talked about that's why the inside's a little bit slower. They're all not pushing. They're lifting a little bit, so if you're hooked up on the outside, that's where you can get that run because everybody has to check up throughout that inside lane, that accordion effect. But if you're that 6th of Eric Arnold, there's nowhere for you to go if you're in the middle of the pack, and that's why a lot of these drivers hate restrictor plate racing, is if there's something in front of you, you really don't have a lot of options there because you're boxed in. Your best friend is going to be the apron if you want to get around anything.
Yeah, and actually towards the back of the pack, I was thinking to myself that 58 of Justin Wilson was basically just keeping himself away from everyone should someone make a mistake and a wreck break out. But he was just side drafting the 77 of Sherry Ann Mills there through 3 and 4, kind of looking to see what he can do to the outside. He might just be testing the waters here. He seems pretty content for where he is. Should there be trouble, he could jump low, jump high, get on the binders, and try to avoid.
We're going to take a couple laps on board with the 77 of Sherry Ann Mills, and a check on the outside. You see that got close right where she was. She has to get hard on the brakes there. The 58 shoots high to get around her. That's Justin Wilson, and she'll lose a little bit of draft. Thankfully, the 25 of Norman Sidlick is there behind her to pick her back up. And also, we can add Keith Brooks Jr. back to this lead draft of race cars, the 18 of Bobby Terrell. Actually, they've dropped a couple tenths off due to that checkup, but they'll be able to get back up there in a moment's time. So that'll give us 21 cars relatively in that lead pack once these back 4 are able to kind of regroup after that checkup and get back up there. We'll go on board once these guys get back up to the back there, but she's riding the 77 machine. The lead draft right now, 16 machines, or 17 actually. Justin Wilson was able to pick up a couple of spots in that exchange, but Keith Brooks Jr., Bobby Terrell, Sherry Ann Mills, and Norman Sidley, those 4 machines are the tail end of that lead draft. They've kind of lost a little bit of time. They're going to work their way back up through there. So we saw a couple of sets of 2 there, Harrison, that kind of slid back on the start of the race. They've all been able to since catch back up to the lead draft with that tandem, which would leave us with only 3 cars not with the lead gap. That would be Kevin Gosser, the number 29, rides around 22nd. The 23rd place car is with him. That's the 14 of Him Street. Both of those machines 19 seconds back, and Kyle Gilbert 37 seconds back, or a mere 15 seconds to the good in front of our leaders. Again, after not getting the start that he needed and immediately losing the lead draft, if we get a couple more laps in here under the green flag conditions, he will evidently go 1 lap down, as our leaders are going to start to see him in their front windshields in a couple moments time, because you take a look at the lap times. Race leader Rhett McBride running a 50.1, that is up the front of it, so he's not even pushing anybody. Kyle Gilbert by himself running a 52.3, so over a second off without that draft per lap.
Yeah, not more than a second. That's about 8 to 10 miles an hour, so that gap is closing quick. So all Kyle Gilbert can do is just hope for a caution right there. But the looking at the 21 of Matt LaCrosse, who's all the way on the outside there, letting people go. We actually almost had a moment a lap or 2 ago. Justin Wilson started pushing pretty aggressively with the 07 of Mitch Rollo. In fact, they're looking on the 3rd lane right there. Every time they get a gust of momentum, they kind of look up there and try to make something happen. They almost had a wreck 2 laps ago with the 82. A shove from the 58 through the 07 actually met the 82 when he wasn't expecting it. But all those guys are okay. Wilson was running about 20th not long ago right now. Only got a few spots out of it. He's battling for about 14th alongside Doug Manning. But it'd be interesting to see the strategy here. Actually, Wilson 13th on the outside line. Actually, the 6th car on the outside line.
And Talladega obviously significantly wider than the Daytona International Speedway. However, the Asphalt Assault Series not getting things kicked off like the Cup side of things and NASCAR Series where they get things kicked off at that World Center Racing. We're doing Talladega, and Talladega is the one and only restrictor plate race in this 10-race season. So they're getting that big wild card out of the race, so we can't really discuss what kind of different approaches you would take to Daytona in comparison to this, but the 07 is dedicated on trying to make that work. Mitch Rollo, he wants the 58 of Wilson to go with him. They have the room on the straightaways, they have the room on the front and the back. It gets a little tight on corner entrance, especially if those guys in the middle lane don't know you're there and they're just trying to use as much racetrack as they can. But again, a really solid green flag run going. The 19 of Ronnie Potts still working the outside lane, has got up to third again, but has not been able to make a challenge for the lead. We talked about Matt Lacrosse, who was up in the number 10 spot. He went to the outside, dragged the brakes a little bit. He's now cycled back in line to the high side in position number 18. So I think you were right there, Harrison, when you said he's kind of testing the waters, trying to see what he can do, but it's staying towards the back of this lead draft, trying to stay out of any sort of trouble that may arise here early on.
Yeah, and certainly that's a strategy that you can get away with. You know, these big packs, especially if we stay green, once we approach that green flag pit stop, it will be incredible how much just these cars separate. At that point, we might have a bunch of groups all alone, and then probably 5 or 6 cars up front who all had great pit stops, great entries, great exits. Entering pit road is going to separate pretty much all these cars up here. And so as long as you're in the lead draft, you're in this race. But once you complete that first pit stop, you know, you can't just settle for running 16th, because that'll mean you might be 11 seconds off of that lead draft.
And for sure, and if we continue to be under green flag conditions, not only are you going to have to do well on entry and get everything out of that pit road entrance as you can, slowing these things down from 190 miles out of the corner down to pit road speed at 55 miles an hour, but it's not uncommon to see a couple of incidents take place as everybody tries to funnel onto pit road in these big packs.
Yeah, certainly. It's a straight shot onto pit road, but that means these people get brave and they go for it. And a lot of times you'll see a little bit of wheel hopping, a little bit of rear brake coming into play, people getting loose. We're coming up on Kyle Gilbert here. They're 3 wide here in the pack. Lap car up against the wall. So is the 07 and the 58. This could get sketchy. They're backing out on the high side.
And everybody's going to have to scatter and disperse as Mitch Rollo, finally making up ground with Justin Wilson, really had to get on the brakes, and some sort of electrical issue there. Kyle Gilbert disappeared, and that's one of the things with sim racing is he blinked out. Now we see him back up and the field working around him. We are going to go 4 wide through the trial, but one of the wider parts of the racetrack. 38 will yield high. But Kyle Gilbert having a little bit of netcode issues, a little bit of connection problems to the service, and he blinked out for just a moment there. Everybody is able to get around him, but that kind of broke up everything that was going on. Taking a look on board with Joe Hassard, the number 11 machine riding the outside. There's a little bit of 3 wide behind him. The designated and the very set 2 lanes of racing that we had seen for the last handful of laps have kind of dispersed. The 19 machine of Ronnie Potts, who has worked so tirelessly for so many laps to slowly start to inch forward on the outside, he's going to have to do it all again. He sits 6th right now at a corner number 4. They're going to get a little bit of a run here. Again, the 4 machine assembly still working with him up top.
Yeah, and Ronnie Potts hasn't gotten a bonus point for leading the lap yet, but that could change. But a big card in his favor right now is he's been in clean air this entire race, so his engine couldn't get much better. Basically just him and the number 2 of McBride been leading the way for those top and bottom lines. And you saw not long ago when they were going around Kyle Gilbert, we were 4 wide on 2 or 3 different occasions, but you saw that 07 of Rollo as well as the 58 of Wilson backing up. They did not want to be 4 wide through the corner. You can kind of make that work in the tri-oval because it branches out. You actually have an extra lane at the bottom of the tri-oval. Makes it a little bit easier, but all these drivers looking to get to the finish, and you saw a lot of them decide to back off and not even worry about trying to make a run on the high side and just get by that lap car.
Trouble towards the back of the pack, and I completely missed this as the field came to take lap number 24. A big checkup on the inside line is going to cause some damage for a couple of machines. The 82 of Jamie Moore got knocked around like a pinball. The 25 was put up in the fence. That's Norman Sidlick. The 77 of Sherry Ann Mills getting damage from that as well. and the 25 is down pit road for service. So the lead draft has now been broken down to 13 cars as we get that up on the replay, which is obviously going to damage a lot of these machines. Bobby Terrell, one of those cars that I was tipped off to it by seeing the rear end damage on his number 18. Again, Terrell entering tonight as runner-up in last season's championship, looking for redemption. Sits 14th position right now. 3 wide, going down into the corner, the 58 of Justin Wilson. But I tell you, that 21 of Matt Lacrosse must be really fast, because for as much as trying to hang back as he's been doing, he's very easily finding himself back up front. He's already the 3rd car in line on that outside lane. He was scored 8th last time by the stripe, and he's in that side-by-side battle with the 16 for what's going to be P5. That 21 machine looking nice and fast.
Oh yeah, we've seen Lacrosse around these parts. He's always solid, he's always consistent, and he's always a player, and he's shown you exactly why. He's pretty good just about any track we run on. And Lacrosse qualified in the middle of the field. We saw him go to the front, to the back, to the front again, and he avoided all trouble there, as actually the 07 of Rollo is tucked in behind him. And that 07's actually got a little bit of right side damage, but as long as he's in that draft, in that slipstream, he's been okay.
So now things start to settle down a little bit. The 07's going to step out to the outside once again, make it 3 wide. That's Mitch Rollo. Him and the 58 of Wilson continue to try to make up ground as lap 25 has come on gone, and we start to close in on the halfway point in tonight's Talladega season opener. We're going to step away for a brief moment. Again, you're watching the Real Sim Racing Asphalt Assault Series. More from Dig on the other side.
Trucking has always been a part of me. It started years ago when my dad and granddad were hauling vegetables to market in Liverpool. The family immigrated to Canada in the late 60s and settled near Alliston, Ontario. I bought my first truck in 1982 and Mercer Trucking was born. Today, Mercer Trucking has over 50 trucks in terminals in Toronto and Los Angeles. Our storage facilities at both terminals can handle any size of distribution needs throughout North America. We service the continental US, including Hawaii and Alaska. We run over 120,000 miles per month and some of the best equipment on the road today. We specialize in less than truckload shipments, show freight, we do rush team service deliveries, and haul your refrigerated or heated product. Our regular team service from Canada to California is second to none, and our staff and drivers are among the best in the business. I'm proud of our people and what they can achieve. Trucking is in my blood, it's my livelihood, and it's what I do best.
Back live here at Talladega Super Speedway. Green flag conditions remain out. 34 laps in tonight's Asphalt Assault Series season opener for the 2014 campaign. Race 1 of 10. And again, I have to give a big shout out to our partners here, including that of InsideSimRacing TV, title sponsor again, coming on board for this year. You can check them out at ISRTV.com or InsideSimRacing.tv. And then the prizes for our champion and much more also being provided by the great folks at Derek Spear Designs. And you again, check them out as well, DerekSpearDesigns.com on that. Ronnie Potts has a nose over the number 2 machine. However, he did not have the lead at the stripe. So Rhett McBride still your race leader officially, but the 19 Harrison finally got a nose out in front of him down through 1 and 2. They slide back to about 3rd or 2nd in line down the back, but those guys in the outside lane, they have not quit. They've stayed dedicated to that for a long green flag run. These guys doing a solid job.
Yeah, absolutely. These guys coming up on that pit stop pretty shortly. Not even sure how the fuel mileage is, but we're 35 laps into this right now. And these guys have been clean, been giving each other room, just trying to get through this race. I'll tell you what, almost halfway, surprisingly, no cautions, but we've had some close calls up here. And so these drivers who got a real close glimpse at those close calls, trying to keep that their one of the race, hopefully to avoid, or hoping to avoid some others.
And a couple machines have had some difficulties here as our leader still green flag racing. Norman Sidlick, the number 25 machine, is last place on the speed charts, 9 laps down in 24th. Sherry-Ann Mills, the number 77 machine, has lost 5 laps. That machine looking a lot better now than it did when it entered. Had to come down for damage repair, maybe a little bit of overheating. There is damage on the nose of that Ford, but Sherry-Ann Mills finds her number 77, 23rd, 5 back. And then again, Kyle Gilbert, after losing the pack there in the opening laps, lost his lap by himself. He's the first and only car 1 lap down, 22nd spot. He does have help with the 48 machine of Kevin Linden. Linden still a lead lapper.
Yeah, Kevin Linden, 17 seconds. He's one of those cars, lost a lot of momentum. He's got some considerable damage, but it looks like he can, if he were in the draft, he should be able to keep up. Right now, getting some help, as you said, by Gilbert. But it's 15 cars making up the lead pack. Dan Murray, who has a little bit of damage himself, but his car's in pretty good shape. Most of it is damage to the right rear, just a little bit of bumper damage. He's hanging on to that draft with the number 8 of Cody Gibson as they're battling up there for the lead. Looks like Justin Wilson, the 58 with the 07 of Rollo. They made it happen. Wilson to the lead. We saw them, really pushing on that high side, and right there, able to get the job done.
Hey, that 07 is pushing like crazy. Still through the corner, you can see that machine kind of stepping out a little bit, but he's full in the throttle. Mitch Rollo and the 58 of Justin Wilson. All that outside work will pay due dividends. They go to the top of the board positions now, 1 and 2, as Wilson is able to get the top of it. And now we hear the 85 of Adam Benefield is coming down pit road. We should expect to see several cars in the lead lap come down. The top 2 look like they're going to stay out. A handful of drivers now come down and cycle through to the pit lane. Looks like the 85, the 6, the 16 amongst them. I can count about 7 cars in total going to come through on this first cycle.
You had 7 cars looking to stay with each other and remain hooked up. Meanwhile, up front, I mean, we saw such a power move when the 58 of Wilson and the 07 of Rollo were able to hook up, and you could see just how much of a difference that tandem could make. But the 07 backed off pretty quickly once they got a sizable lead because he wanted to bring his temperatures back down. But they remain out on the track right now. Ronnie Potts tucked in behind them in 4th. That's Lacrosse in front of Potts, actually. And Scott Simley along with them. They just went by the 14 of Him Street, who's actually coming down pit road himself. 3 remain out on the track, but to pit road is Potts and the 4 of Simley, as well as the 51 of Manning. I see Terrell, the 18, everyone else staying out.
So first 7 and now a 5-car cycle down to the pit road for service. And Gonna keep a quick eye on what the strategy call here is going to be. Ronnie Potts, the first car in, he enters his stall. They're gonna have to get it full of fuel. That would in theory give you enough time to get right side tires. The 19 sitting down there for fuel only. Tires being put on. The 4 of Simley with a 4 tire stop it off. That's going to cost him a little bit of time. And now we hear Matt Lacrosse announcing that he will come down pit road from the number 3 spot. 07 of Mitch Rollo is going to come down. The 58 of Justin Wilson will do so as well. Wilson is loose. The 21 is sideways. Matt Lacrosse, 15 degrees pointed to the inside wall. He hangs on, and it looks like all 3 of the top 3 guys that come down pit road, looks like they're able to get them down the speed and time, but some close calls.
Oh yeah, on board with Lacrosse, as we saw him charge in there, have to lock up, get sideways. Great save by him as they were trying to do everything that we could. Lacrosse actually entering his stall, raises the pit road wall. Don't believe he's going to get left side tires. And I tell you what, we saw Simley not long ago. Believe he's going to be losing that draft. So tough break for Simley. He took 4 tires. It's going to be tough for him to keep up. But these 4 leaving pit road pretty much together. We got Lacrosse, Wilson, Rollo, and Jamie Moore right in front of them, who's actually a lap down. But that's someone for Rollo to work with here as they come through 1 and 2 on the apron. And Wilson coming up to Rollo to give his partner some help.
Hey, Matt Lacrosse, again, after locking up those tires there on entry to pit road, getting sideways, and it looked like when he tried to pull into his stall, almost spun it like that, and that put him again right up against that pit road wall. Luckily, he was not hoping for left side tires. The crew would not have been able to fit there. These guys have now cycled back up in front of the pack, and everybody once again back together. And a slow machine, the 82, is there. Actually, trouble. Looks like Mitch Rollo's got to come down pit road. He may have a penalty.
Yeah, looking back on Rollo, you can only imagine that he might have sped entering. Entering is most likely. We see occasionally people try to push it right at that cone on the exit and speed. But actually, Rollo actually made pit road speed on entry. So looking back at his exit, and he came down into pit road, got himself some tires, and off he goes.
And the point that I was trying to get to there on the 21 Matt Lacrosse before we saw that machine duck off the pit road there very abruptly is Lacrosse locked up those tires. This new tire model can be a little bit more sensitive. And then we saw him try to put it in his stall. It almost looked like he nearly spun it, trying to make that left-hand transition into his stall. Do you think that 21 may have flat-spotted those tires or done something, got him all heated up, and he's going to have to wait a couple laps for them to cool back down? Because, I mean, it looked very weird and very strange how he entered his stall there.
Yeah, and actually I saw another car do the same thing, get hard on the brakes, get loose, a little bit of, it seems like a little bit of rear brake in this setup, more than what these drivers expect. And he wasn't the only one to make that mistake, but as you said, he didn't need left side, so it worked out. But as far as the lockup entering pit road, I do believe it's not going to affect him. You know, just to be on the safe side, when he stopped in his stall, he got a reading on that tire where he might go for left side tires because you really don't need to take tires at all in this race. But if he came a little bit close, he probably will have enough time to take left sides, and he might do just that. But overall, the handling probably not going to be affected unless he did a whole lot more to the tire than he appeared to. I think he got away with it.
Goring going to cycle through this time by discussions going on between the 58 of Justin Wilson and some other drivers on a little bit of strategy play here. And down the back straightaway, working lap 44 of 88. So we're going to be halfway home, and we'll give you a full field rundown when we cross the start-finish line. These cars, again, had to come down and pit before the halfway point. If we stay green from flag to flag, they were going to have to come down and make at least one more stop for service. If we see a yellow fly, will they be able to save enough fuel? How many cautions, Harrison, would you think? I mean, we saw these guys come down. Let's use Ronnie Potts as an example, race leader. He came down for service on lap 39.40. That would put him, if he does the same distance, 8 laps short. Would these guys have enough fuel to save, or would they just come down under a caution flag and make sure they're good to go?
I think on the first caution you'd see most people come down, but they would be pretty much gassing and going. Probably would need 2 cautions to make it. 8 laps is just so long here around a 2.5-mile super speedway, but it's certainly close, and some people will gamble on that, you know, just to get that track position, because if they get out front, get to that low side, defend, you never know. And so a lot of these guys just looking to avoid that, get to the window where they will be safe. But that's definitely something to look at here. And we've seen these super speedway races come down to fuel mileage just the same. But I tell you what, up front right now, the 19 of Ronnie Potts, you could say persistence pays off. He's getting some laps led right now.
The field is spread out a little bit. We are past the halfway point, so now on the downhill side of things. So we'll give you a full field rundown as of the point where they cross the start-finish line to take lap number 46. So if you're seeing the pictures a little bit different, again, obviously Talladega in the pack can be a very fluctuating scene. But here's how the standings go. Ronnie Potts in position number 1. Doug Manning in second. Matt Lacrosse rides third. Justin Wilson fourth. Rhett McBride fifth. Adam Benefiel in sixth. Steve Ritter, 7th, is 5/10 back, and then 8th on back, over 3.7 out of it. Dan Murray, 8th, Cody Gibson, 9th, and Bobby Terrell rounds out the top 10.
Again, just behind Bobby Terrell is 3 more cars holding on to that second pack. The 11 of Hassard, 4 of Simley, 46 of Bratcher, the 6 of Arnold, and actually the 8 of Cody Gibson as well. I believe a couple of those cars might have been a lap down. Actually, no, all those cars in the lap. I'm sorry, I thought one of those was a lapped car keeping up with these guys, but not so. So 3 seconds back, not likely to make that time up. In fact, last lap they lost time. Now over 4.3 seconds behind the leader, who is still Ronnie Potts, leading that way on the low side. And so those guys, to win this race, if it stays green, they're going to have to nail those pit stops, splash, just get just enough gas as they need, and hope that they made up some time. But 4 seconds, not an insurmountable lead. They, you know, certainly when you get more aggressive on these bumpers and work together, they can catch up with those guys, but don't see it happening anytime soon. That top seven certainly feeling pretty safe right now. As we were looking on board with Dan Murray leading that second pack, you could see just how far he is from that 7th place car of Ritter.
They're pretty far out there, and Simley and the 11 machine of Hassard are going to step out to the outside, so they have determined that they've lost 2 seconds, so they're going to make something happen. So they're going to go to the outside. A little bit of mixed opinions there between Dan Murray and the 4 machine on what strategy they should use to try to catch up, but nonetheless the 11 and the 4 to the outside. So again, that has us with a 7-car lead draft within half a second of each other. Then the next group of cars led by Dan Murray, and this time by the stripe going to be led by the 11 of Joe Hassard, as him and the 4 of Simley push through and clear on the outside. Is now 5.4 seconds out. It's going to be Hassard, Simley, Murray, all the way through to Terrell, Gibson, and Bratcher. That group, again, an excess of 5 seconds out of it. That's another 6-car group. And then a handful of guys 20-plus seconds out of it. Eric Arnold's 21 back. 27 back is Brian Harvey. He has the number 81 of Keith Brooks Jr. with him, who's 28.9 back. 36 back is Kevin Linden. And Mitch Rollo, last car on the lead lap, 42 seconds out of it. 18 cars on the lead lap.
Yeah, when we saw Hassard in the 11 and Simley in the 4 make that run on the outside there to get ahead of Murray, basically that's just a disagreement over, you know, whose car is going to be the fastest in the lead, who's going to give us the best chance to catch those leaders. And so they sacrifice about a second right there, making that move happen, as right now the 5 of Murray pulling back up to the 4 of Simley to be 3rd in line. And so that's just one of those situations. Murray's got his car a little bit dented up. He's got a little bit of rear end damage. The front end looks fine, but you never know. Sometimes you can hurt that aero a little bit, and he was involved in a little bit of an incident earlier. And so that 11 is going to lead the way. The 5 is going to go a little bit faster here, using that dirty air, really that slipstream rather. Dirty air not a factor in Talladega, thankfully, and so right now the 11 of Hassard leading that second pack up to position number 8. just hoping to you know, show a little more speed. And Bobby Terrell, you mentioned earlier, he got some rear end damage in that checkup in the turn 1 incident, and he's right now, you know, staying solid, running in 11th, and within striking distance of a really good finish here. So you can never count Terrell out. And if anything, he showed that last year. He had quite a points deficit, made a run at it, won a lot of races, and certainly a persistent driver, and showing why tonight.
We have two cars that have hit the garage. One of them officially out of the race. The 25 of Norman Sidlick has disconnected. His night is done. He will take home the number 24 position. And Jamie Moore, the 82 Skull Bandit machine, complaining of some front-end damage, and said that because of that was affecting the aero on that car, really had no speed. The 82 is currently behind the wall, has not officially disconnected from the sim, so has the ability to come back on track, but Jamie Moore was the second car that would be retired, 23rd and 24th off track.
Yeah, Jamie Moore electing to go to the garage there from 19th. He was probably going to fade to about 21st. And so that's one of those things where it's, you know, give up a few spots to save a little bit of a headache. It could be the most frustrating thing in the world to just ride around, almost like going to the store for a loaf of bread, just one hand on the wheel and just waiting for the finish, waiting for that checkered flag to fly. And so Jamie Moore, that 82, he had a frustrating night, was bounced around multiple times, eventually leading to that car being considerably off the pace. So that Mustang behind the wall, currently 6 laps down. 6 laps ago he brought it in. That gives a spot to Sherry Ann Mills, who I can tell you right now, we're just past halfway into this race, but I think she has already won the Goodies Headache Powder, you know, Persistent Driver of the Race award. She's sticking in there, fixed a lot of damage during a green flag run, lost 5 laps because of it, and been staying with it, getting some lap time here, getting some seat time, laying some laps down, and gonna get what she can.
Well, I'll tell you, the driver, the number 4, Scott Simley, who is being scored at 9th position, did not like the way Dan Murray was leading that second draft, so he radioed up to the 11 of Joe Hashford and said, let's get this thing moving. They stepped up to the outside, drafted around, and went to the front of that second pack. Since then, the gap has gone from what was 5.5 seconds, this time by the stripe, going to get an accurate reading on that, 4.5 seconds, so they have closed in. Joe Hassard, who leads that draft, is now only 4.5 out of it. They've closed in a second, Harrison, in a pretty small amount of time. If they can continue that pace and we stay green, they may be able to catch those guys up front.
Oh, absolutely, and you could tell that gamble of making that run on the outside, just thinking that that car would be faster for this pack to lead. You know what? That was probably the right call. A lot of times you see people try to think that they're going to be the fastest car to lead that second pack up to the lead pack. It doesn't always work out that way, but a little bit of damage for Dan Murray, and another thing, Scott Simley in that number 4 car doing a great job on the back bumper of the 11. He's staying in line. He's not tandem drafting around the entire track, mainly because he doesn't want to push so hard that he has to lay way off of it. So he's doing that happy medium. He's keeping it really close, giving a couple of bumps, poking his nose out a little bit for some fresh air, but mostly been staying in line behind that 11. As certainly, as you said, about 4.5 seconds back. Lost a little bit that lap, might get it back this lap, but overall, gained about 9/10 so far in just that short amount of time.
The first car 1 lap down is 19th position. It's the 14 Boomtown Sims Chevrolet of Corbin Hemstreet. His machine with some right rear damage after making contact with the fence earlier. But again, that has 18 machines on the lead lap. The cars towards the tail end of the lead lap, Mitch Rollo and Kevin Linden, 45 seconds out of it. Or again, you want to make a translation to that, under 5 seconds to the good, as they have a couple of guys that they're drafting with. There's a handful of cars in that 4-car pack, the 48, the 38, the 07, and the 29 all together. The 29 of Gosser is a lap machine, so not all lead lap cars there, but again, if they can't get going and they're having a little bit of trouble trying to get hooked up or get some sort of steady pace going, those two machines are going to lose their lap here in a relatively short time. If they do so, obviously Hemstreet will get knocked out of the lucky dog position and will be left with only 16 cars on the lead lap. The last two at that point would be 15th and 16th right now. Brian Harvey, Keith Brooks Jr. working together, 37 back apiece.
Yeah, and certainly, as you can tell, this race 56 laps in, you just can't count on a caution here, so they're in an extremely vulnerable position as the 8th place car, Joe Hassert, narrowed the gap 4/10 since we last mentioned it, only just over 4 seconds out of the lead. And so Matt Lacrosse out front has taken the lead from Ronnie Potts. So the 21 car out front for the first time this evening, as we saw him looking impressive earlier on as the pack was still pretty big. Now he's found himself a really safe spot, leading the field there just in front of the 58, the Winn-Dixie Ford of Justin Wilson.
So Matt Lacrosse has returned to the point. Again, the 58 of Justin Wilson is second. Ronnie Potts back to third. And again, the top 7, which is that lead draft, remains single file. And at this point, the possibility of a race going green flag to flag is very possible. Now again, if we remain under these conditions, most likely one more stop is going to have to be made. However, as long as these top 7 continue to ride around, and even though we're past halfway and we're on the downhill side of things, looking a lot more relaxed than they did in that opening session where we obviously had 2 wide throughout the pack on the opening few laps before we made the green flag pit stops. Still all single file, 7/10 separate the top 7 on the racetrack. That's allowing these cars that are being a little bit more aggressive, 8th on back, to continue to try to creep forward. It was 4.4 seconds the last time by for Joe Hassert, and 8th scoring did a cycle through 4.5. So the distance and the speed that that 8th place on back secondary group was making up on our leaders has kind of stalled out, even though I saw the 4 machine there assembly pushing Joe Hassert for the majority of the lap. The leaders starting to get more up to speed, and that has to do with the fact that they are all riding single file. Nobody's sticking their nose out, acting as one unit are those top 7 race cars.
Yeah, and something also aiding that 21 of Lacrosse, aside from Wilson really doing a good job on his back bumper, is they've been passing lap traffic here. Not long ago, Kevin Linden went the lap down. They're passing the 77 of Mills. 2 more lap cars just ahead of them, and that is the 29 of Gosser as well as the 38 of Vincent, who's right now 1 lap down already. And so that lap traffic, as long as they stay out of your way, they're kind of welcome here at Talladega because they give you that extra pull down the straightaway especially. And so Lacrosse out front right now, it's been stabilized. They've been trading barbs between Hassert and Lacrosse as far as lap times. Lacrosse, with the help of some of this lap traffic and Wilson, was able to run about a 10th or 2 faster the last couple of laps. And Wilson just right on the bumper, but not using up his stuff, not getting his radiator right up on that back bumper. And so, looking at these tire temperatures, or excuse me, looking at these engine temperatures, all these guys want to just have everything set for the end of the race, which is coming not long from now. We're approaching 25 to go, and it's going to be a very different looking race just 20 laps from now.
Yeah, 2 laps ago, the 2/3 mark has come and passed, and it was 28 to go that last time by the start-finish line. Top 7, again, still well in control of this field, have 4.2 seconds over Joe Hassert and the other 6 cars that make up that secondary pack. We're going to step away once again for a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to take you down to the checkered flag. You're watching the Real Sim Racing Asphalt Assault Series presented by InsideSimRacing TV. We're going to race her down to the checkered flag at Talladega after this. Back live here at Talladega Super Speedway, still clean and green, with the 20 out of Matt Lacrosse continuing to sit up front and lead laps. Welcoming you back into the LSRTV broadcast booth. Evan Pizzoco, Harrison Weilitz with you, and we are nearly set to make this thing green flag to flag here tonight as we are closing in on what is going to be this time by the start-finish line. 20 laps to go. That secondary pack that we have been monitoring continues to sit 4.7 plus seconds out of it. So the gap that they were starting to close in on has slowly started to drift away, and now catching the leaders almost seems out of reach for Joe Hassert and crew on back. But one more trip down to pit road before we're done, Harrison, that will determine who's going to have a shot to race this thing out for that checkered flag.
Yeah, with only 20 laps to go, we could be seeing those pit stops within about 10 laps. These drivers going to be staying on there staying on a pit road just as long as they have to, just enough gas to make it to the checkered flag. That's going to be the strategy that you want, but you want to make sure that you have a partner, someone to dance with coming out of pit road. And so right now that 7-car pack remains up front, and these guys just put a couple of cars a lap down. We see Kyle Gilbert currently shown in 17.2 down his latched onto there. Brian Harvey's had kind of a rough night, a little bit dinged up that 67 car. He's running there with the leaders, as well as Kevin Gosser and Mitch Rollo. And so quite a snake going down the turn 1 there. Going down the front stretch into turn 1, but Lacrosse remains in control. Justin Wilson, pretty satisfied with staying where he's at right now. He's in a good position with just 19 to go. You'll see these guys get a little bit crazy when the time comes to, with about 5 to go, I think you'll see the competition heat up quite a bit.
Yeah, we're not going to cross the start-finish line single file like this. And I was going to say, Steve Ritter's not going to sit in line. He's the first one to come over the radio and announce he's going to come down pit road. He has company with him. The 85 coming down as well, the 19, the 2, the 6, the 51 comes in really hot. And that was Doug Manning. He came over the radio from 4th place, and he was going way over pit road speeding limit. And I got to feel that Doug Manning has got to be way over it. Also, we hear speeding for Rhett McBride, the number 2 machine, as well, as these guys come down for their final stop. Those guys came flying in there real hot, and a lot of them I don't think made that cut on entrance.
Yeah, they know to have a shot at this win, you got to enter pit road right at the limit. McBride just went a little bit too hard in there as they're serving their penalties right now. Eric Arnold also sitting on that pit road. Exiting right now, though, the 85 of Benefield is actually the first car to come out of there, and he's got the 16 of Ritter. Both did their jobs on pit road. Going to see where they come out here as Lacrosse and Wilson still remain out on the track, and they're working together. In fact, they started tandeming, but now they're doing the switch here. Justin Wilson, the 58, about to take the lead. 21 to Lacrosse, about to tuck in right behind him. And so they don't have much help aside from each other, and right now they're putting that to work.
So the 51 of Doug Manning, the 2 of Rhett McBride have been down, and they got their gas, but they had to serve those speeding penalties and come out well behind everybody else there, and more of a splash and go type scenario than the amount of time that we saw those guys stay down there the first time. The 11 of Joe Hassert announces he's going to come in from 3rd place. Does he have company? Yes, he does. The 4 of Scott Simley going to come down with him as well. Going to watch that green cone. And oh, the 11 coming in too hot as well. Joe Hassert, I don't think he was able to catch that. The 4 machine, I think, was going to be good to go. But that 11 of Joe Hassert, looking at the cone there, looked like he was going in excess of 65 miles an hour. Looks like Joe Hassert's in for speeding as well. These guys just trying to get as much as they can out of it. They know the race is on the line, and that's not the first car, Harrison, that's going to cost themselves a chance at the race, assuming we stay green, on trying to be too aggressive on entry.
Oh, certainly, and I was just thinking to myself, the Simley and the 4 and Hassert were working so well together. It was going to be interesting to see what they could do here in this final run. Simley off on his own, though. He had a solid pit road entry and a pit stop. He comes out with the number 5 of Murray, and so Dan Murray and Scott Simley going to have to work together as Steve Ritter in the 16 getting pushed by the 85 of Benefield. They are flying right on by on the outside, and that could be everything here as we approach the checkered flag. As far as up front, Wilson and LaCrosse still remain out on the track. Bobby Terrell still hasn't come down pit road either. Terrell is working with a couple of lap cars, including McBride, who we saw pit not long ago and had a speeding penalty.
So timing is going to cycle through here. Kevin Linden is looking for a partner to come down pit road with the gap between the top two. Bobby Terrell rides alone in the number 3 spot. No lead lap help. He does have a couple cars around him, but he's the lone car 5 seconds back. Steve Ritter is sitting in the number 4 spot, and actually him and Benefield going to pull a swap. So when scoring cycles through, Benefield will have the number 4 spot. Those cars have completed service. It is a 38-second gap that Matt LaCrosse and Justin Wilson have to come down, make their service, get back out, and get up to speed. So Wilson, LaCrosse discussing right now over the radio their plans, and they have decided that they are going to come down pit road for their service. They're announcing obviously LaCrosse, and you got to coordinate this too. It is a straight shot in, but you can go significantly lower to the wall. You can stay a lot higher, and the 21 of LaCrosse goes low. Wilson stays high, and do they make it in? Yeah. Oh, the 21 nearly caught the fence there. Matt LaCrosse, a little bit of a close call, but they both make it in under the speed limit.
Yeah, that was a close one for LaCrosse. In fact, I was riding on board with the 58. Thought that the 21 actually hit the wall, but he did not. He got straight out just in time. They were pushing it. They were coming close to that speed limit right at that first cone, and they both got down to the speed limit in time. You saw LaCrosse was getting desperate there. And so both those cars exiting pit road. This time Wilson will have to wait for LaCrosse as he's got quite the gap on him. And so LaCrosse making that charge, coming up through the gears. Wilson talking to him, asking that he did latch on, and quite the speed difference now. So the 21 creeping up on the 58. They're going to have to work together. The 16 is entering turn 1 right now. The 16 of Ritter got Benefield right on his bumper. And I tell you what, I think Wilson and LaCrosse, all that tandeming that we saw them do once people started ducking down in a pit road 5-6 laps ago, that paid off because they've got quite a gap right now.
And they will retain the lead. However, it is Bobby Terrell who has scored right now in the number 1 position, yet to come down for a second trip to victory lane, looking if he can find some way to steal this. He only has a 19-second gap to work with over Wilson and LaCrosse. That number will update next time the scoring cycles through, but next time by the stripe is going to be 11 laps to go. You said that Wilson LaCrosse, they started doing a little bit of tandem drafting once everybody else came down pit road to give themselves a couple extra seconds, and the gap is going to be 3 seconds from Wilson and LaCrosse back to Ritter, Benefield, Murray, and Crew in that now secondary or tertiary pack, we'll call it, because again Bobby Terrell out by himself, 30 seconds to the good. Yet to come down pit road. The last time that 18 was down for service here under obviously green flag conditions, have not seen the yellow flag being displayed all night long. Terrell was last down pit road before and actually right at the lap 40 mark. So that would be 48 laps that he would have to try to stretch. Don't see that being possible. He has been working with the number 2, Rhett McBride. McBride at the tail end of the lead lap, and Terrell the leader. So that 2 machine right in front of Terrell is the last car on the lead lap. But assuming, and obviously Terrell going to have to come down for a stop, he'll have 28 seconds to work with before LaCrosse and Wilson cycle through in front of him. I don't think he'll be able to get out in front of him on that one.
Yeah, and I think Terrell is going to be coming in on the next lap if my calculations are correct, which they often are not. But I think we'll see Terrell next lap come down pit road. Meanwhile, LaCrosse and Wilson still working together. They want to make this race between the two of them. And how interesting it is to see the two up there leading the field, as they were 2 cars who were kind of testing the waters earlier in the race with that big pack. They'd shoot to the front, they'd go back, they'd shoot to the front once again, they'd try 3 wide on the outside. They were really learning. This package, I think, has changed pretty recently as far as this drafting, and this Nationwide car has gone through some updates recently, different rules package, if you will. And so these guys up here kind of using this as a practice for half the race, and now they're exactly where they need to be. As the 18 of Terrell heads down pit road as predicted, it's going to be interesting to see where that 18 car comes back onto the track. He's going to be hoping that he has some kind of partner to work with, because if he doesn't, he's going to lose any shot at all that he had to win this race, unless a caution were to fall.
So Terrell down into his stall again by himself, no help. Gas and go very quickly. Another advantage of staying out as long as he could, as he does not have to fill that thing up with as much fuel as some of the other drivers. However, Terrell just now exiting pit road. Matt Lacrosse, Justin Wilson through the tri-oval. They see Terrell riding on the apron, and they are going to go through and clear by a lot. That secondary pack through and clear. That second pack is trying to make this a show, and they might make it a 7-horse race once again. It's down to 2.3 seconds at 9 to go.
Yeah, Ritter is doing all that he can. Lacrosse, it looks like they're about matching their lap times right now, though, but 2 cars, you know what, 4 cars could be better than 2 as far as catching those guys. So it'll be interesting to see just how aggressive they get and how early. They don't want to play their hand too quickly and be having to back off late in the going. And so Lacrosse and Wilson just really have this tandeming down to a science. No one's really doing it better throughout this entire field at this point. That's why those guys are running 1-2. And Bobby Terrell, unfortunately, came out in 7th. However, he's got no one near him. And in fact, there's a 3-car pack about 3 seconds behind him. That 3-car pack consists of the 8 of Cody Gibson, along with the 9 of Mark Bratcher. Kyle Gilbert and Ronnie Potts also in that 4-car pack. And so Terrell, all alone out there. 1 is the loneliest number, as written by Harry Nielsen. And so he's in a vulnerable position here. It looks like he can hold on to a top 11.
Yeah, there is nobody around that 18 right now. He couldn't have even cycled through to a lap machine. There is just nobody there for Bobby Terrell to work with. We hear a couple of guys towards the tail end of the lead lap have to come down pit road in that gap that you were talking about. But taking a look at the distance, the top 6 is separated into 3 sets of 2-car tandems. Matt Lacrosse, Justin Wilson, the lead draft tandem, 21 up front. Justin Wilson in 2nd. Then Steve Ritter and Adam Benefiel are working together. And then Dan Murray and Scott Simley, as we're taking a look at the gap between them all. So 3 sets of tandems trying to make this thing a show, and all trying to close in on Lacrosse and Wilson up front. Ritter has been successfully able to do so, down to 7/10 the last time by the stripe. This time we're going to cycle through it. It will be about 6 to go.
Yeah, up front, Matt Lacrosse and Justin Wilson had to do a switch. Lacrosse was getting too hot, had to go to the lead to get some clean air. And that put them at that position where Steve Ritter and all those guys right behind able to get a huge run out of this, and they are there. For a while there, we thought it might have only been a 2-car race, but look at that, top 6 all underneath the blanket. Lacrosse, Wilson, Ritter, Benefiel, Murray, and Simley. Murray and Simley, in fact, going to the outside at number 5 and number 4 there. Everyone else staying to the low side. But right there, 6-car race, coming to 5 to go this time by.
So it is on up front after 80-plus laps of green flag action. The field is going to be slimmed down to 6 that have a relative shot, unless, of course, they all pile them into the fence on the white flag, and somebody from 12-plus seconds back, being a Bobby Terrell, may steal it. Who knows? It's Talladega. Expect the unexpected. But 6 cars in that lead draft, and they're going to race it out. The 16 of Ritter, the 85 of Benefiel to the high side. We're going to be side by side for 1st and 3rd down the back straightaway. The 16 has pulled clear of the 21. Does he leave the 85, or does he stay out enough to bring Benefiel with him? He's not going to leave, and the 85 is going to get left out to dry. He stayed out there as long as he could. Benefiel wasn't clear, and the 16 of Ritter has to make the decision that's going to get him to victory lane, and that is dive down in front of the 21. He leads it off of 4.
Yeah, the rough part about that right there is without the 85 on the 16's back bumper, you have to think that if the 21 goes high, the 58's going to go with him. And so those two were working together so well together, they were working so well together, why change now? and so Ritter finds himself leading the field, but he has to feel oh so alone up there, despite being in such a good spot. 85 just not able to get clear down that backstretch, able to tuck in the 4th position though, right in front of Dan Murray. Scott Simley all the way at the back here, and as you see right now, Steve Ritter all alone at the bottom. 21 goes to the outside, Matt Lacrosse, 51 will go with him.
So the 21 to the high side, the 58 tries to get on this bumper, and a little bit of a bobble there for Justin Wilson, unable to get up and push Matt Lacrosse in 3 and 4. They're going to have to try to get hooked back up, and Adam Benefiel, forgiving at the moment, gets back on the back bumper, the 16 of Steve Ritter. I'm sure he's not going to forget it and step out of line here towards the end, but Benefiel back up to the bumper of Ritter, that top 2 tandem, 1st and 2nd, the 21, the 58 on the outside, and also the 5 of Dan Murray, the 4 of Scott Simley. That 3rd group of 2 is on the inside and kind of stuck, has nowhere to go. They could force it 3 wide, but at this moment, they have to ride around behind Ritter and Benefiel. Across now the outside lane, tries to pull a little bit. Again, a little bit of a bobble. The 58 machine of Wilson trying to keep it on the bumper. They're not going to clear the inside. Will stay side by side, 2 rows deep, at least in 3 and 4.
And you can see just how worried Wilson is about those temperatures. I was going to say, I don't think they're going to be able to tandem through the finish without a switch, so Wilson's just going to have to keep getting some air to that nose. At the stripe here is going to be 2 laps to go, but as you see, as he does that, the 21 of Lacrosse has no momentum. Ritter able to capitalize on this, stretches lead on the outside line, and as you said, he's got that 85 there on his back bumper. Murray and Simley also working underneath of Lacrosse and Wilson. Wilson tucks underneath the 21. That's for 5th position. He's going to come back up here, collect his teammate, and they're going to see what they can do now. And I think Lacrosse and Wilson are going to be pushing hard on that outside here, but they only have just over a lap and a half, or just about a lap and a half to do it.
Yeah, through 3 and 4 for the second last time. The 21 has had to make that switch to 58. Wilson was unable to push him the entire way, so Matt Lacrosse hops back into the pushing position, actually position 6. We're single file this time by, white flag in the air. 58 going to be the first car to try to make a move. Justin Wilson to the outside lane, 2.66 miles to go. Down into corners number 1 and 2. It's 4 on the inside. Ritter, Benefiel. Then you have the 5 of Murray, the 4 of Scott Simley. Can they try to find a hole to make a move, or can the 58 and the 21 get it down the back straightaway on the high side as we head towards 3 and 4 for the final time tonight? Still clean and green. A caution would not end it. Its first person to the stripe is going to take this home. Now 3 and 4, 16 still out front. The 21 and the 58 have become separated on the outside lane. They're not pushing. Who can make a last-ditched effort at a corner 4 contact? The 4 and the 58 back in the pack. A couple cars sideways. Big wreck, 3 cars hard in the fence. They're going to race it out to the checkered flag. 2 wide checkered flag to Steve Ritter.
Steve Ritter. Yeah, I had to worry for Steve Ritter there at the end, but Lacrosse and Wilson not able to stay together, and then you saw the accident there coming towards the tri-oval. Steve Ritter able to capture this victory, got the lead with just a few laps to go, but he's the one who brings it home. In fact, they might have been 3 wide right at the stripe. Murray ducking low, Benefiel looking high, but none could get to Steve Ritter.
And they got desperate. The 21 and the 58 couldn't get hooked up. 21 slides up just a little bit, hooks the 58 into the 4, and those 3 cars going to get some heavy licks. The 4 and the 58 hard into the fence. The 4 machine going to lose his engine. Scott Simley will not make it to the checkered flag, and all that racing is going to come up short for him. Again, he will not cross the start-finish line. He'll be scored 13th. Justin Wilson limps home with a beaten and battered machine in 12th, and Matt Lacrosse, the way it seems to be most of the time, that car that initiated the contact, obviously not intentionally, but the car that initiates the contact gets away with the least amount of reparations from that. Matt Lacrosse able to hang on for a 4th place result, but Steve Ritter by 0.03 of a second. Dan Murray tried the bottom, and you can call it 3 wide at the stripe, but Steve Ritter going to put the number 16 Chevrolet in victory lane as he burns it down at the start-finish line. We're going to step away for our final commercial break. Come back. We'll talk to the top 3 finishers and get you set for race number 2 coming up in 1 week's time. That's going to be at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. So don't go anywhere. Post-race show coming right up.
Trucking has always been a part of me. It started years ago when my dad and granddad were hauling vegetables to market in Liverpool. The family immigrated to Canada in the late 60s and settled near Alliston, Ontario. I bought my first truck in 1982 and Mercer Trucking was born. Today, Mercer Trucking has over 50 trucks in terminals in Toronto and Los Angeles. Our storage facilities at both terminals can handle any size of distribution needs throughout North America. We service the continental U.S., including Hawaii and Alaska. We run over 120,000 miles per month and some of the best equipment on the road today. We specialize in less than truckload shipments, show freight, we do rush team service deliveries, and haul your refrigerated or heated product. Our regular team service from Canada to California is second to none, and our staff and drivers are among the best in the business. I'm proud of our people and what they can achieve. Trucking is in my blood, it's my livelihood, and it's what I do best.
Back live at Talladega Super Speedway, green flag from the drop at the start of the race down to the checkered flag. No cautions, we go green the distance, 88 laps, and we finish it off nearly 3 wide at the end. Down on pit road, Harrison Wylets, you've caught up with our third place finisher, driver the number 5 machine. That's going to be Dan Murray.
Oh yeah, and I'm here with Dan. And Dan, getting qualified 7th, able to come home with a top 3, but I tell you what, towards the middle stages of those in that race there, after the first pit stop, running the second pack, how sure were you that you would even have a chance at the end of this one?
I was absolutely not sure at all. I didn't think we were going to get there. I knew I was trying to do math and race at the same time, and normally when I do that, it doesn't lead to good things, but I managed to guess right and gave me just enough fuel to finish, and then luckily enough, I hooked up with Scott there, and we were able to reel in Adam and Steve. And that's we got lucky. That's all there is to it.
And we saw some damage on the back end of that 5 car, but did you notice at all? Did it have any effect? Didn't appear to be too much.
No, it wasn't too bad. It felt a lot worse than what it looked, I'm sure, but we just all got stopped there, and I didn't have time to signal back to the guy behind me. Wasn't anybody's fault. It was just one of those racing things. But no, it didn't seem to affect it at all. I was surprised.
And this short 10 race season, you're certainly off to a good start. And this is a short schedule that consists of quite a variety of tracks, a few 1.5 milers. We've got some short tracks in Richmond, ending at Homestead, much like the NASCAR Championship. But looking at places like Atlanta, Richmond, Chicago, Michigan, Phoenix, are there any that stand out to you as places that you really think you could capitalize?
I normally run pretty decent at Atlanta, but one of my favorites is Chicago. So kind of looking forward to getting to that race, but take them one at a time and see where we end up.
Absolutely, and starting off the season on the right foot with a great third place finish. And so who makes it happen for you? Who'd you like to thank?
Just everybody at Still Horse Racing. Worked so hard on just random stuff during the week, and it's nice to, even though Adam's not considered a teammate, it's nice to finish 1, 2, 3. I kind of feel bad for Cody Gibson. He ran an awesome race. Just one little issue and wasn't able to stay with us, but he'll be up there too. But 1, 2, 3 with some pretty good guys is pretty awesome.
So third place finisher Dan Murray. I believe Evan Pasoko has caught up with the second place finisher.
We're down here on pit road in front of the number 85 stall. Adam Benefield able to come home with a second place result. Adam, did you guys think that entering tonight's race, maybe a couple of names that you haven't raced with before, obviously a lot of names that we recognize here from the RSR Cup side of things, but entering this race, 88 laps, did you expect it to go green all the way?
I figured we'd at least have one caution, but I was prepared for a solid green run. We get them a lot, over on the Friday Night League with RSR, so it wasn't really surprising that that for the first race at Talladega that this one went green flag.
Now walk us through those closing laps. You were essentially out of the picture at 10 to go. You made a very strong charge with Steve Ritter. Ritter kind of left you hanging there. He dived down to the bottom. You found yourself behind Tim and were unable to make that move there at the end. Came up 3/100 short. Walk us through those final few laps, chasing down the leaders and then racing it out for that checkered flag.
Yeah, I was once after that last pit stop, man, Ritter come out right there, and then following a few laps, Dan and Scott was right there with him. So once we got lined up, we knew that we was gonna run down Matt and Justin. So we're just biding our time and trying to come up with a game plan while we was catching them. But I went high, and I, honest to God, I just got to blinking so bad, started overheating, so I shot high, and somehow, I have no idea, there was just a hole for me to go straight down to the bottom and back to Steve in the second. And from then on out, it was just keeping Matt and Justin from passing us on the outside, and trying to set up for my little last move through the tri-oval, but I waited a little too late.
Obviously, it is a 10-race season, so not a lot of room for error. There's not a lot of races where you can use up some mulligans. So starting it off at a right note with a second-place finish doesn't get much better than that. Moving forward next week, it's going to be at the Atlanta Motor Speedway, that 1.5-mile speedway. How confident are you going into that one for 130 laps?
Atlanta's my favorite racetrack. I got the win in the Cup car a few weeks ago, and the Full Throttle Cup series. So B car, I love it. It's gonna be different with the new tire model that come out a couple weeks ago. But I'm confident, man. I mean, this whole schedule, I like all the tracks that we go to. So I'm hoping for a strong season and see if we can't come away with the championship.
Before we let you go, as always, any sponsors and shout-outs? Who makes it happen for you and the team?
Yeah, Roll Speed Dynamics, Patrick Gillum, my wife, and we actually found out last week we're having a baby, so I guess my soon-to-be baby, and just, the guys, even though I'm not with Steel Horse, man, I mean, when it comes down to stuff like this, racing with two Steel Horse guys, they have my back, and those guys over there, Ritter, Dan, and all those guys that helped me out, just big thank you to them.
Well, congratulations on the news. Congratulations on a solid finish, and good luck moving forward. We look to see that 85 up front.
Thank you.
That is Adam Benefield. He's going to walk away with a second-place result. And Harrison, you've made your way down there. We believe you've caught up with our race winner down in Victory Lane.
I liked racing with him.
Yeah, Steve Ritter, driver of that 16 car. I tell you what, race one of the season, coming out with a win, that certainly has to feel incredible.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I raced with RSR a long time ago, and kind of coming back and to have the first race get a win, that's kind of neat.
And we saw you working really well with Adam Benefield. In fact, he got you to the lead, but you had to duck down. He wasn't quite able to get clear at the time. And run us through the emotions there in the final laps as you're seeing Lacrosse and Wilson behind you, who are working together very well. You had to feel pretty vulnerable at that spot.
Yeah, I was waiting for him to go by me. I mean, I knew Adam, Dan, and I were all working together. We're all on the same team, and I got to really thank those guys because that win wouldn't have been possible without those two. But when I saw Adam go up high and I was kind of on the bottom alone, I thought I was a sitting duck, and all of a sudden here come Adam up behind me and pushed me right past him, so that was kind of cool.
Some of the talk that I had seen is people not quite sure what to expect out of the temperatures, out of the overheating problems potentially. Just how much of a factor was that when you were pushing somebody?
We didn't really push a whole lot. I mean, we got in that group in the beginning, and we were just kind of laying off the bumper of the guy in front of us, and my temps were fine. I was actually running pretty cool. I think towards the end there, Adam had to back off a couple times, and I was kind of talking to him on the radio. I'm just telling him, you know, push me when you have to, but if we got to get out of line, we're going to be in trouble. And that's exactly how we caught Lacrosse and his partner.
Yeah, and looking at this 10-race schedule, short run right through the championship, and there's some nice variety from Atlanta, Richmond, Chicago. Couple of shorter tracks. You have Phoenix on there, and then a group of 1.5 milers ending at Homestead, which is almost like a different variety of 1.5 miler. But out of what we got running here, are there any tracks that you feel really comfortable with?
You know, I'll be honest with you, I haven't even looked at the schedule, and I hate plate tracks. So to come out of here with a win, that's awesome. Bring on the 1.5s. I love those tracks.
Oh, absolutely. To go to your track that you fear and come out with a W, it's only up from there. And I tell you what, starting that 10-race season at a track which many look at as the wild card, certainly couldn't have gone any better than that, actually. And so after that win, who makes it happen for the 16 bunch? Who would you like to thank?
Well, definitely Steel Horse Racing. I joined them guys a few months ago, and they are a great group of guys. And Dan and Adam and Jason Swanee and all the guys over there, Cody Gibson, they all helped me a lot, and I got to thank them a ton. I don't have any sponsors on my car, so I don't have any sponsors to thank, but obviously LSRTV and John Abbott and all the guys at RSR, they run a great organization. It's really fun to race over there.
Well, and there you heard it. Race winner could use a sponsor if you're a company that is looking for a little bit of, you know, a little advertising on LSR. You could always sponsor Steve Ritter, get in the race, but he's your winner tonight. 9 races to go in this one, Evan.
Yeah, he's got Snap on there as an associate sponsor, but that big block on the side of the car in the hood is open and available for tonight's race winner, Steve Ritter. Going to run you down through our Inside Sim Racing TV full field rundown. Obviously, we talked to the top 3. Steve Ritter is going to finish in the number 1 spot. Adam Benefield 2nd, and Dan Murray 3rd. Matt Lacrosse comes home in 4th, 1.7 seconds back. Obviously, caught up in that incident, that 3-car wreck going through the tri-oval on the white flag. Bobby Terrell 5th, Mark Bratcher 6th, Ronnie Potts 7th, Cody Gibson 8th place, Joe Hasser 9th, and Rhett McBride will round out the top 10.
Finishing 11th was Doug Manning, followed by Justin Wilson. We saw him getting caught up in that wreck right there, coming to the checkered. Lost quite a few spots, but will take 12th. Scott Simley takes 13th. Brian Harvey 14th. Kyle Gilbert stays in the race, able to get 15th. Eric Arnold 16th. Kevin Linden 17th. Kevin Gosser 18th, followed by Mitch Rollo. You know, he was a factor in this race, but unfortunately ends up 19th. 20th was the 14 Corbin Himstreet.
And to round out the field, obviously the documented problems, Sherry-Ann Mills fighting through a lot of damage, comes home 21st position. Keith Brooks Jr. 22nd, Jamie Moore 23rd, and Norman Sidlick 24th, rounding out our 24-car field. So no cautions all season long. One race through the RSR Asphalt Assault B Car Series. Before we step away for the night and get set for next week's race, Harrison, closing thoughts on the action we saw tonight?
Well, certainly a great race, and you know, you come to Talladega, it's the wild card race. You expect some problems. You expect a big one, but you know what? A lot of times you can expect a cautionless race, and that's exactly what these drivers brought out tonight. So Steve Ritter able to capitalize on a race that many look at as a question mark. As heading next week into Atlanta will be kind of the groove that much of this series will be for these 10 races, and so quite an optimistic start, I would say.
So the one restrictor plate, the one track that you're going to circle on this 10-race schedule as a wild card race, is not going to be determined by any stroke of bad luck, being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Fuel strategy on coming down pit road, having to make 2 green flag pit stops, working the tandem and the pack draft is going to come down to determine the finishing order, and Steve Ritter gets the job done to victory lane to close things out. Before we step away, obviously I have to thank the good people at Inside Sim Racing TV for sponsoring this series. Again, ISRTV.com or InsideSimRacing.tv, and also Derek Spear Designs, DerekSpearDesigns.com. Again, the prizes for this series, and if you walk away the champion, the 2014 Derek Spear Designs Race King button box is going to be given to the winner. That's about valued at $150. And also the top 25 drivers will be put in a drawing for a set of Fanatic CSR Elite pedals valued at $177. So lots of great prizes. Night number 1 gets kicked off with a bang. A great race, green from the start to finish. And again, Steve Ritter is able to get it. That's going to do it for us up here in the broadcast booth. So for Laura Lawson, as always, down in the production holler, pushing the buttons and getting us on air. Harrison Weilitz for joining me once again back up here in the broadcast booth. And my name, Evan Posoko. Thank you for tuning in. We look forward to seeing everybody next time where we say, let's go racing once again. Race 2 from Atlanta coming up in 1 week's time.